One of my favourite games as a kid was Micro Machines, the original cartridge adapter version for the NES, and while my favourite part wasn't the one with the boats, it was of course the F1 cars on the pool table, racing boats around a bathtub was probably in top 3. It wasn't alone in this, there were many ways of racing a boat in Eliminator Boat Duel, and of course early Rare let you do some pew-pew as well in Cobra Triangle, but here this is, the top-down robot-themed robot racing game with a twist, or a crank. This is RowBot Rally. Get it? Row your bot? Robot? Okay. This is a game which received a bit of hype, relatively speaking, of course. It was nominated for Most Anticipated Game last year, I think losing out to Mars After Midnight. Panic took it with them to show off at various different events, has a very active community behind it, with the developer having engaged with them all on their extensive developer log on Discord. So, do I recommend this? No, it's not a good game. It's one of those rare moments during the last year where I felt the need to force myself through to see the end of a game. Because despite all of its charm, despite its wonderful aesthetics, it simply does not play well. It all starts with the premise, and it's a simple one at that. The real version of Desert Bus never came out, so instead here's the Pico 8 version. For those that don't know, this bus will veer to the right, so you need to go left to stay on the road. You are correcting a fault, and that is the entire gameplay loop, trying to perform a normal function despite the mechanisms being fundamentally broken. And so it is with RowBot Rally, but there's lore behind it. A bunny finds a robot in a scrap heap, but can only work one ore and can only do it continuously. So to counter that, you, that is to say the bunny, need to use the other ore, using the crank. And through this power, the both of you can win the annual boat racing competition that's currently dominated by automatons. The way the story is told is truly excellent. There are these sublime hand-animated cutscenes, not much words to go with them, and are therefore incredibly expressive with a lot of humour to go along with it. But then the game happens. It starts innocently enough and humorously enough with the tutorial realizing something is amiss as the boat spins on its own. If you have never been on a rowboat, you of course need to do both sides. Or if it's a Canadian canoe, then just alternate. Or if you know the secrets of the northward stroke, then you are a magician, and I'm glad you've chosen to waste your time here. The instructions come along to use the crank, but there is a trick to it. There is a power meter. The robot's is on the left. The one you need to manage is on the right. If the bunny's power meter is under the robot, then the boat will go left. If it's over, then the boat will go right. If it's in the middle, then not just Goldilocks is happy, but me as well, because it's just right and it goes in a straight line. There is a little bit of leniency in it, but it does mean using the crank at a steady, continuous pace during races and challenges. The first task for me is to go up, and as you can see, I had a bit of difficulty finding my groove. Is my power too high? Is it too low? Who knows? I'm going around in circles and bashing into walls, which feel like they're brick walls no matter what the actual surface the bank is meant to be. Let's just look at how other games handle this. Wave Race is easy, it just gives you an ocean load of space. Micro Machines gives you bubbles. Diddy Kong lets you ride up whatever stands in your way. Fine, let's look at ones with actual collision. Hydro Thunder, you just kind of scrape. Riptide, scrape or get knocked forward. Sonic and Sega Racing Transformed, not the last one, the good one, where you can also be a boat, and collision does not necessarily mean the end of the game. It's not realistic, but the collision physics are done in the name of good gameplay, and not causing the player too much harm. So fine. There are things to learn, need to get used to it, let's do a race. It's a short circuit. The river is wide enough to eat up my mistakes, a good place to practice. Now, the objective itself is to beat your opponent. There is only one opponent. There will only ever be at most one opponent to beat. And thankfully, the AI makes a few mistakes, meaning catching up should be possible for this first race. The AI isn't rowing erratically, however, but still finds itself smashing into the banks. Never mind. Each race has 3 laps. I did my lap in 50 seconds. That means a little over 2 minutes of measured cranking. Because I'm recording this through special Playdate software, you can actually see the crank in action at the bottom. Lots of little corrections which turn into big moments. But we win, we go onwards. Race 2. It's a bit more complicated now. Just like in Micro Machines, there are whirlpools around. Thankfully, those don't suck you up, but they do spin you round. The AI doesn't care though, it just nudges me off and off it goes. However, again, again. Plenty of space. It looks like 4 or 5 boat whips. It's a learning struggle. I failed the first time, but succeed on the second. And then came race 3, the paddle beach. The width of the circuit is more narrow, which leads to more crashes. These things on the side should just be buoys attached with rope. These should not be stopping me dead in my tracks. This is exacerbated by boost pads littered across the track. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it does not. Why can't it be like Cruising Blast and just have boost pads also launch you up in the air? But if you haven't mastered going in a straight line in the 2 simple races that have happened so far, this is going to be a long race with lots of restarts. Another part that doesn't help is this cloud, or maybe it's a wave. Either way, you're asked to navigate around the second corner of this track, a long corner, without visibility. And if you're doing well, then you're also fighting off your adversary at the same time. Yeah. No. It also covers up a shortcut in this game. Funnily enough, if you go in performance mode, there is no effect, and the shortcut is incredibly obvious. Trouble is, the shortcut is slim, and you need to go in a straight line, and so I did it like this, which ended up being surprisingly successful when done half right. It cuts out a lot of the track and gets you out in front of your rival. This is very important because passing on narrow tracks is a pain. It's like the rowboat version of Monaco. You need a crash or some heavy rain to get anywhere, or a massive shortcut. There are different ways to control it. The first is easier cranking, which just means the bar goes up easier and quicker with less rotation, which I found just led to more corrective measures needing to be taken. There is also the option to go crankless and use the D-pad. If you want to go in a straight line, you can. You just press up. Then you press right on the D-pad to send the bar a bit higher and turn right. So letting it go will turn left and the robot will be in control. The problem with this, though, is twofold. Firstly, the Playdate is a tiny system with a tiny D-pad. My thumb covers the entirety of it. Secondly, controlling racing games with D-pad has always been questionable, let alone when your craft is fundamentally broken. So I went away, I had a cheese sandwich, I came back and persevered with the default controls. But at that point, Stage 3 had soured me completely. Probably set my impressions of the crank controls back a bit. But I had intent, I had a fire lit under me. I was going to finish this damn game. To go back to Micro Machines, some characters are fantastic and will drive near flawless races, so I know if they're gone, they're probably gone and I won't be winning the race or maybe even seeing them again. They make mistakes, yes, but they are few. Similar feeling with this game. If you spend a lot of time at the beginning bashing walls, making 5 or so mistakes, and the opponent has gone, you may as well reset. So I did. More than a few times. And then using my expert driving skills through tight environments, and again, it was done. The bunny was happy at least. Then there are, light spoiler warnings, wacky races shenanigans, which means our plucky pair don't make their next race. Stage 3 is probably the biggest difficulty spike in this game, but it saps out so much energy and enthusiasm. There are other races, some with shortcuts, some which seem like they do but aren't worth the trouble. There are also gimmicks like jump pads and also the most egregious gimmick ever added to a racing game with questionable controls where the controls are reversed. So instead of cranking hard to go right, you crank hard to go left. Some of these stages are much shorter though, requiring about a minute to be completed. They were completed. The day was saved. Not sure if we won the World Cup, but it was over. 7 stages in total with completion ranging from 1 to 3 minutes. And this is not a long game, even if the controls cause you massive problems. What to do next? Well, the game teases it. New Game Plus. But with only the difficulty ramped up. At this point, I'd switched to D-pad controls and it went a lot more smoothly with a Mercedes F1 Dark Days-esque performance of running off into the distance. There's also time trial mode, which is exactly what you expect. And Stage 3 now with D-pad, kind of going okay. Now it looks like this, and this, and this. Not the most exciting thing in the world, and this has me currently 9th in the world. This is an impression and not a full review. Firstly, because I'm not a reviewer, but secondly, I don't want to touch this game ever again. And it feels bad for me to say this, but something I feel needs to be said because of the second point. This is the most expensive Playdate game currently available at $15. The second most expensive game released in 2024 on Playdate was $8. So this is almost twice as much. There are plenty of great games at this $8 price range as well, released last year, like Skip the Arcade, Be Kind to Yourself, Echo, Void Blazers, Deep Space Dapper Squad. Oh, and I picked up Wire Walk the other day for $7, which is quite neat. Mars After Midnight, the highly anticipated game from Lucas Pope of Papers, Please and Obra Dinn fame, is only $6. And it won't be the only one if the coming soon games are sorted correctly, with 2 games also set to appear at this price range. But in the world of Playdate, this is a premium price, therefore the expectation should be more towards a premium product. And if you strip out the animation and just focus solely on the game, solely on the gameplay, this is just not it. When Nintendo pushed prices up to $70, they at least had the decency to use Tears of the Kingdom for it. I love the Playdate. I love supporting quirky projects from developers. I buy games much more readily on this platform than any other. But if $15 becomes a new normal, or if it forces the general price range to creep up in response, I'm going to be less inclined to go on spending sprees unless there is a certain guarantee of quality. There are challenges in this game to do, like doing a flawless raise and other things to explore, which may increase longevity, but this is where I'm going to have to tap out. There is a demo, please try it out before you buy it. I'll put a link in the description, because the Discord has raved about this game. How it's worth every penny, like a Playdate AAA game, and I truly believe this is a game with flaws which hampers the enjoyment and playability, but clearly other people are enjoying this, so please do check it out. But please do think before giving out your $15, because unlike the likes of I Am Bread or Octodad, there's not really the absurdity to make up for the fundamentally broken controls. So that is it. That is starting my new year with what will most likely be a rather controversial take. But I really wanted to like this game, and I really did not at all. But that doesn't mean I'll stop with Playdate, and there'll be a few more Playdate Pew Pew videos to come in the future. Thanks for watching as always. Hope to catch you again soon. Bye now.